It's a sacred book. People feel so awed by a sacred book that they don't really want to touch it and or say anything against it or contradict it or say anything that would make them feel bad because maybe God is watching them or something. I understand that. That's something, that's a feeling of awe of the holy, of the sacred. And we all feel that, even though some of us don't show it in the same way. Perhaps everyone feels awe before sacred, holy things. On the other hand, in the university, we do have to try to analyze things and discuss them. That's the difference between a Sunday school class or a class you'll get in a synagogue or a mosque or some other place. And when you do it at the university, and I told you guys at the beginning, and that's unfortunately the difference. And so we have fewer people because of that, but I don't think that's a bad thing. I mean, if people feel they can't do it, they should do Hinduism. Okay. All right. So we finished Genesis, right? Anything you want to deal with in the Genesis material that you feel puzzled about? Okay. So, I do think if someone had done what we did for Genesis, for me when I was your age, would have saved me a lot of pain in life and a lot of trouble about what to make of religious documents and holy books, whether Jewish, Christian, Muslim, or whatever. The Muslims think that we rip the Quran apart, don't they? But they haven't seen what we do to other books. So we're not ripping them apart, but I mean analyze them and so on. So they're all sensitive and oh, he hates Islam or something like that. No, we don't hate anything. In fact, I love this book, as you may not have noticed, but it is true, I do. And I think it's a beautiful book. But I do think that one should understand something about it and that one shouldn't be overawed by anything. One should realize it's a human book and that we're human beings and human beings produce it. So that's really something that I think is important. Well, the same problems continue in Exodus, unfortunately. The same problems will also continue in Joshua. I wouldn't continue with the same kind of meticulous analysis of what we did in the previous books. But let's take a look what we've got here. So basically, 1:7, the sons of Israel became fruitful, grew in numbers. I don't even really know what even. I'm probably not going to look at the actual text lines anymore to an extent, because I wouldn't be able. I'm not such an expert. The guy who wrote the Bible, maybe he can do it better, but it's up to you. They increased and grew immensely powerful. Then a new king arose, line 8, who knew not Joseph. That's really a great line, who knew not Joseph. It says it all. How long were they supposed to be here in slavery here, or enslaved? I'm not sure the dates are totally reliable in terms of, I'm not sure the people who put this down knew the dates any more than a lot of other people did. But I think, isn't there something like 400 years or something like that? I forget how many years they're supposed to have been there. Or 30 maybe, I'm not sure. Somewhere it might say it. In any event, I told you a little bit about the Hyksos, the foreign invaders of Egypt around the 1600 BC period, who ruled for 100 or 2 years, 100 to 200 years in Egypt before a new dynasty came in. And probably, as I said, this could have reflected that period. Because even if you got a native Egyptian dynasty, it probably wouldn't have been as easy for Joseph to rise under a native Egyptian dynasty as he might have done under a more Semitic dynasty. And the Hyksos were considered to be Semites, meaning people from the Syrian, Mesopotamian area somewhere, shepherds, Bedouin, something like that. So I can write that on a board again, Hyksos. And So most people put this, so I think this is actually a pretty good historical memory of something really exciting that took place among our people. Remember I told you that Hebrew was a word that the text usually uses in what context? Yeah, maybe, but also what others call it, I'm not sure it's always derogatory, but it could be, yeah. It's not bad. But Israelites is their own name among themselves, which happens a lot. I think there are groups even today that they know what they're called, like the Sioux Nation. We call them Sioux, but I'm sure they call them something else. They have their own inner name for themselves. We don't mean by Sioux to derogatory. I think we have a respect for Sioux, but they have their own vocabulary. So the idea that there were a lot of slaves, again, I don't know if I'm mixing up 400 years with 400,000 slaves, or how many, I don't know how many slaves are supposed to be, but how many Israelites are there finally? I don't know, a lot of them. 500,000, 600,000, I don't know how many they're supposed to be. But if you can find the precise, our number man, some of you realize there was a number man in the Noah story that you realize he was very interested in numbers. Okay, so now he should tell us how many there were, but the picture is that there were cities of Pithom and Ramses. Now these cities, I think, have been located. I'm not sure if we can be that precise here, but in the Delta. You know, Egypt, the Nile Delta is sort of like New Orleans, where the Mississippi comes out into the Delta, and it's a swampy area, sort of, because these big rivers make deltas. The Euphrates, Tigris and Euphrates in Iraq, there's a whole delta region down there by Basra. So these cities are really up by the Mediterranean. They're not really cities, that's where they've been identified. But the problem is that they didn't seem to come into existence until after Ramesses' time, which is around 1200 BC. So again, the dates are a little bit worrisome here. You follow me? A little bit skewed here, and I can't do anything with it. Now, a lot of scholars have come along. You see it on TV a lot because TV likes to have people with controversial views. They have coming along and they're talking about there's no proof the Exodus occurred and so on and so forth. No, well, how would you have proof? You know, where's the proof? And the Egyptians aren't going to commemorate it or anything.